Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, and welcome again to ICB TV. It's Monday, the 13th of July. It's a pretty dull day outside. It's certainly not going to be dull here today. And before anybody says anything, yeah, I've had the haircut. I finally got in. Had to walk 5 miles to get it cut, but it was worth it. Although my feet don't actually agree, but never mind. That's all good stuff. I've got a few things to talk about throughout today, but the main thing today is to introduce you to our guest today, James Ashford, who is founder, no less, of GoProposal. Morning, James. Afternoon, James.
Hey, Gary.
How are you doing?
Hey, Gary. I'm good, thank you. I had a haircut yesterday for my wife, and it was the moment where she went, "Oh no!" And like she normally does it as a joke, but she genuinely took a big chunk out of the back of my head with the clippers. So she managed to correct it somewhat.
I had very, very long hair, and I was trying to get my wife June to have a chop at it, but she said, no, I don't want to ruin it. Don't want to ruin it. So eventually yesterday. So I'm not sure it looks. I don't think it looks particularly shorter, but anyway, it's I think 12, 13 weeks growth since I last went there. So Goldilocks is my new middle name. But anyway, so GoProposal. First of all, tell us a bit about you. Where are you from? Is that Mancunian accent?
No, Gary, Yorkshire. The other side of the Pennines. Yes.
Ah, right.
So we're based in Doncaster, and my background's I'm a designer, and ended up setting up a marketing agency several years ago. It was kind of in the recession, the last recession that we're in. I've been made redundant twice, and we had our second child on the way, and I knew I had this idea how I was going to make a lot of money, which was to set up my own business. Building a marketing company, and it was a very steep learning curve very quickly.
Yeah.
So
setting up a business is, it's great. I think everybody who thinks they can do it should do it, but we're never quite prepared enough. I mean, I went into business by myself because of a redundancy as well, and that's the steepest learning curve you get. I think you suddenly realise what all those people that were running around helping you, how useful they were to you. They're not there anymore.
Yeah. And it was a really good business. We had good clients, and we made some money, but it failed ultimately. And it failed because we didn't have the full finance function in place. You know, we never made any major mistake. We just made a series of small mistakes, and every one of them just took us closer and closer off course. And the accounting that I was getting from my accountant was 18 months old data that wasn't useful for me because I didn't have the information in the system in the first place to be able to make decisions about my business moving forward.
I mean, it's one of the things we say all the time about small businesses and their finances. And it sounds, obviously, we're saying this because we're bookkeepers, but you get a buzz from your accountant 9 months or 8 months after your year end to say, I've got 30 days to get your accounts in. Can you send me everything? And then he turns around and tells you everything you've been doing wrong for the last 18 months. It's not the best time to find out.
No.
I made the big mistake with one of my businesses that we had one particular client who kept growing, and everybody said, don't keep putting all your eggs in one basket. But when somebody keeps giving you eggs, you take them because you think, oh, this is looking great. And he did disappear, unfortunately. So, your times are tough. But anyway, so I've been looking at your videos. You're obviously, like me, shy and retiring. I can tell by the videos. You've got something that a lot of our members don't have, which is the ability to just get up there and talk. And you obviously find this selling thing easy, but I from reading through what you're saying, GoProposal is a tool to try and take away that nervousness, add to your professionalism, and help you out in that first meeting, which is potentially the most difficult of all. Would I be right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to pick up on that word there that you said there, Gary, that I'm good at selling, or that selling is not a problem. I've got no sales training. I've got no sales background. The only sales training I've got is I used to be a close-up magician. So I used to do corporate events and weddings, and I'd be the guy that had to turn up to the table. So you're sat with your friends, Gary. You maybe had a few drinks. You've not invited me there. You don't want me there. I'm interrupting you. You don't believe in magic. You don't believe in what I'm selling. And I've got kind of 5 to 10 minutes to convince you that magic is real. So that was kind of my only sales training I ever had. And people typically have an aversion to selling. We don't like even using the word selling. And it's for one of a couple of reasons. One is because you've experienced a bad salesperson at some point in your life, and you've bought, my typical one is I guess a bit of a cliche, but the car salesman or whatever, who you've had a very bad experience with, or you have received some sales training from somebody and it has not sat right with you. It's felt uncomfortable, and it maybe felt okay in an event or in a book, but then the rubber's got to hit the road at some point, and you've now got to go and do those things and implement those things. And, we're wired up very differently. And so I'm always very interested in what is practical, what can I use? And so I don't really take on many of the kind of sales principles that people talk about. One of my core beliefs, Garry, is that the way we start any relationship is the way we start every relationship. So the way you would start a friendship, the way you would start a relationship with a significant other, built on trust and built over time, is the same way that we build relationships with our clients.
Yeah, it's a good point. I like that. I think we sort of learn over years the best things that suit us, and we hope to get it right at least some of the time. And I think really, if I look at the members that we have, the majority of our members come into bookkeeping. They're mainly women. They come into bookkeeping after having had a family, and they don't necessarily come from an environment where they've been the front person. They come into an environment where they've been, well, I suppose backroom. That's not trying to be rude in any way, but they've been the people who've done all of the work. Yeah. And all of a sudden, they still want to do that work, but they've got this extra thing that they've got to find within themselves, where they've got to go out and find the business. And actually, I think our members generally take very well to it. They're like ducks to water, and they have this sort of, they must have something in their personality that makes them entrepreneurial. Now, we're not talking Richard Branson, as I always say, or somebody like that, but we are, if you're setting up your bookkeeping practice, you are an entrepreneur. Even if you've only got half a dozen clients and it's a part-time job and you're actually concentrating on bringing up your family, you've done something out of the ordinary. You've made a life for yourself. You created a business. It is still entrepreneurial, and they sometimes don't appreciate that. And I like to keep telling people, look what you've done. You are the most important thing to your business. Now, obviously, well, not obviously, when we first started this organization, one of the big problems was that bookkeepers were not very highly regarded. I like to think over the 24 years that we've been doing this, we've created a huge new professional aura, if you like, to our bookkeepers. They are far better received. But when you get a client, attracting clients is really not the problem nowadays. There are so many businesses out there that want a bookkeeper. That's easy. You get to see them. It's like going for an interview. You get 30 seconds, first of all, to make sure that they're going to like you, but then you have the serious bit. And I always say the first thing you do is you get them talking about their business, but listening then to your videos that you've done, that's when you make your biggest first mistake, which is you undervalue yourself. And so you've got certain, I think you gave 3 points that you think are where things go wrong. So beginning, middle, and end, if you like. But just run through how you think we should be handling this.
Yeah, sure. So I think, first of all, I completely agree of the value that bookkeepers bring to the party. Hugely, hugely valuable. And I think especially throughout these current times, that value has gone up. There is a danger, though, that if you've perhaps not been making as much money as we pass through these times, because maybe clients have cut back or whatever, that your value of yourself has gone down because maybe your bank balance doesn't reflect what's going on. But in the rest of the world, your value has significantly increased. So it's really important that you really realize the value that you're bringing to this, especially as we go into this new world. And you certainly have got a unique opportunity to hit reset on a lot of client relationships. To my mind, the first thing is, so we've got an accountancy firm as well, and we provide bookkeeping services in that firm, Garry. So it's called MAP in Manchester. Yeah. So. And one of the things that when I first started working with them on was this idea of person first, client second. And so we have to be solving the person's problems first before we start to solve the client's problems. So what I explained to them is, one of my goals was to be able to take my children to and from school every day. It was really straightforward. It wasn't drive a flash car. It wasn't make millions or anything. It was a really simple goal for me: take my kids to and from school every day, and I achieve it. In order for me to be able to do that, I can't be focusing on certain activities that take me away from that. So I have to be able to focus on my core business activities or be focusing on doing the things I want with my family. Bookkeeping is one of those services that need to be taken away from me. However, what's important is that you guys make that connection between what you do and what it enables me to do. So to my mind, you are doing bookkeeping, but that allows me to take my kids to and from school, or it allows me to focus on bringing more sales in or developing our product or growing my team or whatever it might be. And so it's really important that we make that connection first. And the way that we do that, and I find this just really enjoyable. It's just to speak very openly about to our clients. So, you know, what are you looking to achieve? What does success look like for you? What would a perfect week look like for you? And the moment you can start to understand what they're wanting to achieve, then you can start to put the solution together for it. It might be, and there is a danger, Garry, that what happens is we end up falling in love with what we provide. We end up falling in love with our own services, and we need to break that connection and fall in love with our clients' challenges and their goals. Because the moment you know that, I don't know, let's say you're working with a construction client and their real goal is to get their golf handicap down from 10 to a 7. That is useful information for you when you're now saying, well, what is preventing you from leaving work early on a Friday? What is preventing you from going and spending time on the golf course? What are some of those activities? Okay, let me explore those. What can I take away from you? So it's really important that we have that conversation to start with.
Great. You've obviously got a practice, as you say, and I've again looked at some of the stuff that you've been doing there. One of the things that we're finding at the moment is that technology is being handed out as the be-all and end-all. It's the answer to everybody's ills, et cetera, et cetera. And we're finding quite a considerable kickback from clients who are saying, whoa, hold on a minute. The reason I took a bookkeeper on in the first place was I didn't want to do this stuff. I'm happy for you to do it. I'm happy to do bits of it, but actually, I don't want to do my own accounts. I still want somebody there. I want that personal touch, because it's all very well doing the accounts, but when I see a gobbledygook of figures, I still have no idea what they mean, and I want somebody who's going to tell me. We're finding this a lot. Are you coming across this at all in your practice? How are you handling that?
Just explain which part's the challenge, Guy, that people want to take the technology, or they don't want to pay for the technology, or what's the technology problem there?
I don't think it's the payment so much as they gave up their bag of receipts to give to a bookkeeper. So the bookkeeper now says, that's great, I've always done that, but now here's a piece of software, photograph everything. And sometimes even that is too much for them. And at the end of the day, providing we're getting paid for it, we do what the client wants, surely.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And that was something, again, when I first started dealing with MAP. So I was first a client for MAP. And that was how GoProposal came about in the first place. I'll come on to that shortly. But I was able to give them very honest feedback as a client. And I'm now a director of the firm as well. And one thing was happening was the bookkeeper, Sam, was ringing me up on a Friday saying, right, I've got all these transactions we need to go through, James. I need to get these receipts from you. I need these invoices. I said, I'm not going to do that, Sam. I said, I haven't got time. I said, what I will do is I'll give you access to my inbox. I'll give you my email passwords, my Amazon passwords, my eBay passwords. You can ring anyone on my behalf. You go get it all and charge me whatever you need to charge me. It's just not worth my time doing it. And then we did that, and we managed to really get it down to kind of 5 receipts, maybe a week or something like that. And my response was, if they're not in my pocket, write them off. I will lose the VAT. I won't have to, if I can't claim the VAT back, I want them. But again, it's still not worth my time to go looking for these receipts to save a couple of quid on a cup of coffee or whatever, right? So I think there's a couple of things. One is you're absolutely right. We need to look at all the ways that we can help them, and there's still many ways that we can serve our clients. But then the other one comes down to the way that we price, Garry. So that one thing that I'm a real believer of is that if you're able to improve your efficiencies because you've used technology, you should benefit from that. So the concept of charging based on time kind of doesn't work then, because if you were able to introduce technology that enables you to deliver it in half the speed, therefore you should get paid half the price. But that's not right. You found the technology, you trained in it, you've implemented it, you've done all the work, you should benefit from it. So one of the big things that we have in MAP, and which we've shared with a lot of other bookkeepers, is the idea of charging based on transaction volumes. So if you're you know, reconciling 50 bank transactions a month or 1,000 bank transactions or whatever, or producing this number of invoices or chasing this number of debts for them. If we charge based on the number of transactions, it's a very fair way of doing it that the client can understand and you can understand. And if you're able to do that faster with technology, you benefit from it.
Now, what happens when you get COVID and all of a sudden all of the transactions stop? Surely if you're charging a monthly amount and you're still doing something for COVID, then you can keep your money. If you're basing it on transactions, all of a sudden there's nothing to bill for.
If the client's got no work, if they're not doing any work at all, if all of their work is dried up.
Look after COVID, but it's not very transactional based. It's advice based.
Sure. So you're absolutely right. And when all of this hit to start, and this is really important, I've been to all these events and where people stand up on stage and talk, and they say compliance is dead, or there's no value in this, or there's no value in that. And I'm like, compliance is our most valuable work that we charge for. So we provide payroll, we provide bookkeeping services, compliance services, and advisory services. And one important thing for us, Garry, is that we're profitable in the way that we charge for everything. And the reason why that's really important, especially throughout what we saw when the COVID first hit, was that people were scaling back on advice to start with, but they needed extra help, maybe around payroll, or they needed extra help with certain compliance issues, etc. Because we had the margins built into that, we were able to provide that extra level of service, and we didn't charge anything extra for it initially. Everyone just kind of mucked in and had to do what we had to do. You know, it was unprecedented. Now, you're absolutely right. We do charge for that extra work. We are charging for all those extra things that people need our support with and help with that are COVID related.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. The transaction is just one methodology of pricing one aspect of the service. There's other methodologies for pricing other aspects of it as well.
Right. So, I mean, over the last probably 5 or 6 years, we've had a number of people who've come to us with everything from a nice flick book where you sit with your clients and you go through a pretty book and you tick off, I want that, I want that, I want that. No, I don't want that. Yours, GoProposal seems to be very similar. It's a question of sitting down with your clients and actually deciding there and then to begin with what it is they think they need, what you can provide, and how much that's going to cost. Is that summing it up?
It is. You said a really important word there. I was listening for you saying this word here, Garry. So it's what they need, not what they want. And so sometimes they can come to you and say, well, I want this. And what they're basing that on is what they've had historically. So what we've developed was a framework that we take them through that looks at what their goals are, where they're trying to get to, where are they now, what are the obstacles that they're trying to overcome, and what's the speed they want to move at. So we call that the gloss method, and I can share some content on that if you want to pass that on to your members. And so we make sure that we're going through a consultative framework first so that we can present the right solution to them. And this is where we need to develop the confidence and the bravery because, and I learned this from Paul, so Paul Barnes is the founder of MAP. And he said, the reason why I'm a good salesperson, this is what he said about himself. The reason why I'm a good salesperson is because I would only ever offer what I would want if I was them, knowing what I know. And to my mind, that's our ethical obligation, Garry. So to me, selling is our ethical obligation. So if you've been through that consultative process, it is now your ethical obligation to say, if I was in your shoes, with everything that you've got, knowing what I know, this is what I genuinely believe that you need from us. And that fee could be significantly more than what they expected to pay. It could be significantly more than they're currently paying, but we need the confidence to present that because here's the kicker, Garry. They don't need to take it. They don't need to accept it all, but it's my obligation to at least present it all. And so when we developed GoProposal, it's because so I'm from Yorkshire, where God's from, and Paul's in Manchester, where it rains all the time. So I traveled over the Pennines on the train to Manchester, and he went through his proposal, he had his beautiful spreadsheet, etc. And I got to the end of the meeting and I said, where do I sign? And he said, it doesn't work like that. I'll send you a proposal and then you get an engagement letter and then you sign that. And I said, okay. So I traveled back home, got to my wife and she said, how did it go? I said, oh, brilliant. We have found the person that's going to really help us out. It's exactly what we need in our business. She said, great. How much is it going to cost? I said, I have, so I told it was 3 times more than we're currently paying. She said, what are we getting for that? I said, I have no idea, but it sounded brilliant, right? And I had no means of justifying what I was about to sign up for. And she taught me out of it. And then she got me to speak to someone else, and they further taught me out of it. And I went back to Paul and I said, Paul, you've done a great job of presenting the fees, but you've said to me that you're a digital cloud expert, that you're going to save me time. And the very first thing you've done is taken 3 days to get me a proposal, and you've saved me no time. You've wasted the last few days of my life. Like, you've not demonstrated the thing that you're saying that you can solve for me. So I previously developed some software that enabled people to have this interaction much more rapidly. And so we implemented GoProposal, and the fundamental basis of it, Gary, is that it's transparent. So you can sit with a client, they don't select it. This is very important. You present the solution to them. And at the end of that process, this is what it's going to cost. And if you turn around to me and say, well, that's too much, I don't want to spend that much. Not a problem, Gary. What do you want to take out? And it's the computer says this, right? And very often when people move into this space, it's a very nerve-wracking situation. So if you're presenting a fee to a client and they say that's too expensive, I don't want to pay that much, sometimes people can then drop their fee. And this is where, if you just take one thing from this talk, this is the most important thing. You guys are like magicians as well. Bookkeepers are like magicians in that I give you something, you work your magic. I don't quite know what you do your magic, and then something happens, right? Something gets filed, or something gets recorded, or something gets paid, or whatever. So you're magicians, but I don't get anything physical. I don't get anything tangible in my hands. You know, if I go and buy this headset, I get given it, I walk away with it, I can put it in my ears, I can listen to it. You guys, it's magic. So I don't get anything tangible. The moment you discount, the moment you do anything free for me, even if you discount by a small amount, what you're inadvertently saying to the client is, our services have no value. And then guess what? 6 months, 12 months down the line, that client stops valuing what you do. You now think that client's a complete pain in the backside, and you start to look for a better client. The problem wasn't with the client. It's that you trained them to become a bad client. You trained them from day one because you didn't charge them what you needed to charge, and you didn't stand up for that amount. But I know that's daunting, and that's why, and this is a really nice phrase that a bookkeeper said to us recently, GoProposal's my shield. When I go in, GoProposal's my shield.
Yeah, I think people need a shield. I mean, we quite often say, if you've got some bad news, blame the institute. Say my institute says I've got to do this, or I've got to do that. You know, certainly that's some of the things. And it's taken a few years, but when we first started this, a lot of bookkeepers would still be on the same fee 10 years later. And we said, why? I said, well, I'm still doing the same job. Yeah, no. It doesn't work like that. You know, it is a difficult one. But I was interested in your analogy of the bag of peanuts, which I hope you'll share with us.
Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, if you go to a supermarket and you do a big, up north, we call it a big shop, Gary. So I don't know if you do big shops where you're from. But anyway, we do big shops.
We do a bigger card here. But yeah, okay.
yeah. So if we've gone to and done a big shop, and you've gone and loaded your car up, spent a few £100, loaded it up, and you realise you've forgotten a bag of peanuts, and you go back in, or a packet of chewing gum, and you go back into Asda, they don't just hand you that to you because you've just spent all that with them. There is value attached to that. And it's really important that you guys first associate the value with what you provide, and that you charge for everything, because otherwise it absolutely destroys the relationship. The moment you start to do that, it starts to deteriorate. And what you said there about not changing your fees for several years, we review bookkeeping fees with our clients every 3 months. Every 3 months, we do a full review with every client for bookkeeping services.
Yeah.
Now, because we charge, so a lot of the bookkeeping services that we provide, we are charging based on transaction volumes. We've got a really, can I talk about this? I'm just trying to think. I'm asking myself here, Gary, if I can talk about this. I think we can talk about this. So there's a Xavier Analytics is a great product. It's just been acquired by Receipt Bank, and currently it connects to Xero. What Xavier does is it pulls out the transactional data and the health score of their accounts in real time, so you can get that data. We've got a cool integration it's live with a handful of bookkeepers at the moment, because as they're pricing the client, they've actually got the transactional data. So if they're saying, what's the quality of your record keeping? Well, the quality of everyone's record keeping is impeccable, right? Well, with Xavier, they can say, well, no, it's not. You've got a 41% score for your record, for the quality of your record keeping. So, we're going to charge you accordingly to that. And we can see the transactional volume. We can see how many invoices they've got, how many receipts they're generating, etc. And we can use that data to price very accurately. So every quarter in our firm, I'll get a call from Sam or whoever and say, hey, James, it's just always a positive call. Hey, James, I've seen that you've got more transactions going through your accounts. You've got more clients. Great news. Well done. You must be doing something right. There's a small increase in your fee for us to continue to do that work for you. Is there anything else we can do while I'm on the call with you? That's it. Just super positive. And my fee just goes up every month, and I love it. Every quarter. And I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah. It takes something to get people into this habit of changing things and upping their fees every year. And it can be very daunting when the 12-month clicks over into month 13 and you have to have this meeting. And so I've always said that there are other things that you need to do with your clients on a regular basis. You need to check that nothing's changed, that your due diligence and risk assessment, the background stuff that we do is right. But if you use that as a sort of an opening gambit, then you talk about what you've done, etc. But the one thing that I've always found with clients is they always underestimate the amount of work they're going to be.
Yeah.
Always. And
yeah.
Oh no, we're very simple. We don't have many transactions, and it's all very simple. And well, I've been doing it myself for years, so therefore it can't be that difficult. That's the first thing. You think, well, if you've been doing it yourself for years, it probably is going to be really difficult because you'll have messed it up. But that's one of the things. I remember Rich Brees from. Sorry, carry on.
No, just on that point, Gary. Really, really important which is, especially with a new client, the reality is, with the best will in the world, with whatever software you've got, you've no idea what you're getting into. That's the reality of it. So you can quote them accurately and fairly and logically, etc. But what we say to every new client is your first full fee review will be in 3 months' time. Because until you get under the bonnet of that business, we've had it before where we've signed a client up to our accounting business, and they've said, our bookkeeping's perfect. We've got a full-time bookkeeper. We employ them full-time. Everything's perfect. And we've got in there and like, this is an absolute shambles. This is the start of your problem. And so you can't take anything at first value. But if you manage their expectations by calling that out and saying, in 3 months, we will have a full fee review, even if you're way off track, it's not too bad. That said, I did have it with a bookkeeper who contacted me recently, and they said after month 1, they realized what they'd gone into was way, way off. And what do you do? And at that point, we had to put the brakes on at that point and have a very different conversation.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking to people and you're trying to give them your fees or whatever it is you're trying to, I remember Rich Brees, who used to be the head of Intuit in this country and then head of the accounting across in America. And he said to me, I think I went into the meeting and we did the traffic and we did the weather and all this sort of rubbish that you normally go through. And then he said, right, he said, I'll let you do a little secret. He said, I like to come out of this meeting thinking, for every 10 things you've got from me, I've got 11 from you. He said, so if you can't give me one more thing than I'm giving you, he said, then don't even bother. So I thought, oh, that's a good idea. So, and the thing is, the client has to believe they're getting something really valuable out of this, as you've said. And it is based on value. It isn't just transactions and compliance, which, yes, it's our bread and butter stuff. But it is, like you say, I can do something with my life that I wouldn't be able to do if I didn't have your service. And it might be something like wanting to pick up the kids. It might be something like spending more time training the staff. It might be I want to take on 5 extra people. That's what you need to pull out of them somehow and find what it is. Or, perhaps it is just going to the golf club and getting a lower handicap or something. Who knows, really?
That's it. And it's really important that we make that connection because for a couple of reasons. One is that's where we make an emotional connection with our clients. That's where they understand the value that they're about to spend, pay with you. And I'll give you this example. before I moved to MAP, my old accountant, I think I was paying like £150 a month. And he was trying to sell me more bookkeeping services, more bookkeeping, okay? Just whatever that is, okay? So he was trying to get me to go from £150 a month to £250 a month, but I didn't see the value in it, okay? So I left and went to MAP and started spending £600 a month instead. Now, what's really interesting about that is what you guys sometimes we go in and we make an incremental improvement on the service we're going to offer, and the client may turn around and say, I don't see the value in that. I don't see why I should pay that. But what you hear there from them is, I don't want to spend any more money. That's not what they said. They said, I don't see the value in that. But sometimes we can go in with a much higher offering. And this is not about scamming people or just charging as much as you possibly can. This is about really understanding what their actual problem is. And I've got example after example where people have gone in and increased fees by 5 times and increased by 10 times by genuinely understanding all of the problems they're trying to solve. If you can then distill that down into kind of one statement. So let me just confirm with you. You're trying to take your kids to and from school every day. You only want to work 4 days a week. You're trying to get your business to £1 million in revenue, and you don't want to spend 1 minute doing any bookkeeping on a weekend. Is that right? Is that what we're trying to do? Perfect. Let me show you how to get there. But until you can establish that statement, it's very difficult for them to connect what you're offering and the fee for that to how they benefit in their life.
Yeah, it's surprising what makes people buy, what motivates them. It can be different things, and you know, some people just, even though you might be the most expensive, there will be some people that will say, I'm not even going to bother with that, and others will say, there must be a reason for that. Providing you can sell them that, I think it's okay. And Mark Wickersham, many years ago, I remember seeing him with his, he was saying that when you go to Costa, there are 3 levels of cup, 3 sizes of cup. Everybody goes for medium. So if you go in there with your prices and you've got, well, this is what you get for the top, this is what you get for the bottom, this is what you get for the middle, most people will opt for the middle, regardless of what it is, because they're saving money over one and they're gaining over the other, which is going to be too small for them. So there are so many different ways of doing this. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, many years ago,
I've got an interesting take on the 3-tier pricing model, yeah. Gary, if I may offer this to you. So I think that's great for coffee, or if I'm buying an iPhone or a laptop, an Apple, you know, all those things work. But to my mind, you know, the finance function of a business, I know this all too painfully. If that isn't right, if that isn't in place, then businesses can fail. You know, cash flow is the lifeblood of that business. And whatever accounting services you're providing to that business, whatever the finance function is, it all starts with bookkeeping. If the bookkeeping is the key to unlocking everything, if the bookkeeping isn't right, you can't have management accounts, you can't have accurate information, you can't have anything else. So the bookkeeping, to my mind, is the most valuable part of the whole equation. So with that in mind, I don't think it's fair to say to a client, you choose. What level of service do you want? To my mind, we only offer our clients one solution, which is the right solution. And the analogy I always give with this, Gary, is if you went for surgery and you're having an operation and the surgeon said to you, right, Gary, we're going to operate here, we're going to cut here, and how many stitches do you want in there? We've got our gold package. I can put you 20 stitches in, or I can put you 15 stitches in. What you'd be like, just put enough stitches in so I stay alive, right? You're the expert. I would expect, just like a consultant in a medical profession, for them to have gone through a proper consultative process to then have the confidence to present to me the correct solution. I believe that in the bookkeeping profession, that again, we should have the confidence to go and present that ultimate solution to them. And sometimes our clients can trick us into thinking they don't have money. They have money. They've all got £1,000 iPhone in the pocket. If you look out the window, they'll be driving away in a nice car. They've all booked the family holiday for next year. They have cash. It's about convincing them that what you're providing is valuable and that some of that money should come to you.
Great. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And what we do find with our members is that some of them are very competent and some like the transactional bit of what they do. So what we noticed over the recent years is that some of those practices are merging. And somebody then will spend very little of their time actually looking after the transactions. They'll be out on the road. And the other person will head up the office and make it work like clockwork. And that seems to work very well. And it's interesting stuff. I mean, we've got members, like, I can think of several of them, but somebody like, we've got Claire Allen, she's actually on our council. I think she's got 14 members of staff working for her now. She's got 3 branches. And she seems to be constantly thinking of something new to give to her clients. You know, she was doing Zoom meetings, actually calling all her clients together, doing Zoom meetings.
That's great.
And that's what she wants to do. But I know others who said, well, that's not me. I quite like sitting in I like to try and find where that 50 pence has gone or something like this. Or I like shouting at clients because they've not sent me their petty cash receipts or whatever it is. So there are horses for courses. But I think the one thing that comes across is, and I deal a lot with firms of accountants as well. Bookkeepers have a much more personal relationship with their clients than accountants. But sometimes that can be a negative because it's more difficult to say to a friend, you're screwing me here, you're getting more out of me than I should be giving you, so I need to up my money. But I don't know if you find this.
100%. Everything you've just said there, Gary. So that you know, people talk about kind of, you know, machines taking over and technology taking over. But at the end of the day, you know, we need to pick up the phone to clients and get them to do what we need them to do. That's the value. That's the value in what, and having that, you know, giving them the disciplines to do the things so that we can get the information we need when we need it off them in the order that we need it in. That's massive, massive value that we got there. That does create personal relationships, but we have to develop ways to disconnect from that slightly. So I read a good quote by a friend this week, and he said, growth comes from the things we say yes to, but success comes from the things we say no to. And we have to be comfortable saying no to clients or standing up for what it is that we believe in. And I have this question, I have this often, and I had it with a bookkeeper last week as well, Gary, is that we develop emotional attachments to our clients. And what we have to do is we have to break those emotional connections. And a good question to ask ourselves is, if I just bought this business today, what would I do? If I just bought this business today, what would I do? And the reason why I get people to answer that question is I'm trying to break the connection between the emotional attachment they've got to clients, to the fees that they're charging, and what they should be doing. And the other thing I say to people is, when you've kissed your husband or your wife, your dogs, kids, good night, and you've locked all the house up and you're all comfy in bed, none of your clients are thinking about you. That world that you've created for yourself is your world, and you've got to make sure that that is the world that you want. This bookkeeper was charging really low fees, and she was telling me about her granddaughter. And I said, look, for you to be going and doing that work, you are not spending time with your granddaughter. You are making a decision to go and do that work. So you have to be getting paid the correct fee that's going to allow you to have the life that you want. You're a business too. First and foremost, you're a business. And the only thing unique about your bookkeeping business is it's the only business on the planet designed to give you the life that you want. And so you have to make sure that you're getting the life that you want. And the way that we do that is by charging the correct fee. Where it can be compounded, Gary, is sometimes, especially with bookkeepers, if there are an army of one, so they set up on their own, they sometimes name their bookkeeping practice after themselves as well, or it'd be their initials. Okay. Mm-hmm. So PJ bookkeeping or whatever. Well, that creates another emotional connection, because then when they're presenting the fee to the client, it's not just that you're rejecting the fee, you're rejecting me, you're rejecting my company. You're rejecting me because my company's named after me. So there's a lot of emotion tied up to this. That is why we have a lot of bookkeepers using GoProposal, because it's not me that's saying it, it's the computer that's saying it. The computer says it's this amount. And so it's much harder to argue with that than it is to argue with and reject you.
So it's interesting you say you should, it's the saying no. It's the people saying no to that make you a success. I don't know if you've ever heard of Dick Rowe.
No.
He met up with this group of 4 and told them bands with guitarists were never going to be successful. They'd seen their day. And he turned down the Beatles. So it doesn't always work.
No, it doesn't always work. But what you need to do is, yes and no are always said at the same time. You know, I've said yes to doing some filming tomorrow, and I'm saying no to a walk with the llamas with my children. Now, that's a decision I've made there, but we're always saying yes, and you're always saying yes and no at the same time. So sometimes we have to say no to clients or to their requests, and we have to, and the way that we can have the confidence to say no is to remind ourselves of what we're saying yes to. So I'm saying no to this client who wants me to do this extra work for free because I'm saying yes to this client who actually wants to pay me for it. So we always need to be mindful of what we're saying yes and no to.
I've got a Facebook comment here from Jane Lynch. I agree that a busy client might not have time to find receipts, but my understanding is that receipts have to be kept for CT compliance, not just VAT. So you can't say it's not worth my time to find those receipts because HMRC requires them. No, that's fair enough. You've got to have receipts. But I think that expecting clients to do something with those receipts, some clients will, some clients won't. So, you know, again, it's what you choose to do as a bookkeeper. If you don't offer that service, then you don't offer that service. But I think you'd be a strange bookkeeper if you didn't offer it to them. I think
sure, but no, it's not that. It's just that sometimes, you know, you go to a restaurant or a meal or whatever, and you lose some receipts. Like I do my best to retain them. I use receipt banks to upload them. I do my very best, but occasionally you lose them. And at that point, you have to kind of say, well, I just can't find this. I can't devote any more resources to attempting to find this receipt. So you have to figure out how to, you know, record it or write it off or whatever. But I just can't physically find this receipt.
Yeah. I mean,
and we're talking about like pounds. I mean, like the big stuff. Yeah.
But the big stuff is different. I mean, that is not. Hazel Bolton says, what is the quality based upon?
From Xavier, the quality of the record, the quality of the health score in Xavier. I think that's maybe what you're referring to.
Oh, yeah. Hazel, if you can add to that, otherwise we'll answer the question we think you're asking, which is, in Xavier.
Yeah, so I think it will be relating to the health score in Xavier. And the answer is I'm not sure. And I know they have some protection around that in terms of how they score that themselves. You'd have to speak to someone far wiser than me. I know if things are incorrectly coded or if things have been recorded twice. That's the extent of my bookkeeping knowledge, but it assesses things across a variety of metrics to assess the quality of, to provide a health score for their Xero app.
Now, Faye comes on and says, I have 2 clients with VAT returns and they take about 1 to 2 hours each a quarter. One gives me their records normally in the last week it is due, and I have actually done it the day before. They get 10 to 15K dividends each month, and I can't seem to get them to accept a value price. How can I get them on board that the fee is too low? I'm feeling I'm just going to drop them.
Yeah. And that can be okay to drop them as well. And that's great that you've arrived at that conclusion, that you're prepared to do that. So the way that we price VAT returns in our firm is that pricing is never solved. Like, you never get pricing nailed and it's like, right, I've now figured out my pricing. I never have to worry about it again. Pricing is only ever tuned. We're constantly tweaking it and we're constantly improving it. And that's why we need a systemized approach, because you will take a learning from one client and that learning needs to go into the system so we don't make that mistake again. The way that we price VAT returns is similar to the way that we price annual accounts, in that we use their annual revenue as a factor. So we use their annual revenue because we make certain assumptions that it's going to take more work to do, more emails, more phone calls, maybe more dealing with HMRC in order to resolve that. And like I say, all of our prices are very clearly presented, and we would agree that with them. And the quality of the proposal, like, the only thing you have to communicate the quality of what you provide is in that proposal and how you then present that to the client. And that is the fee. So they either accept it or they don't. There isn't any middle ground. So I guess if it was it Faye was saying that, was it?
Yeah, Faye. Yeah.
Faye. So long as you can be kind of honest with yourself and say, well, I've presented it as very best I can, as clearly as I can. If at that point they're just not prepared to accept it, then you're absolutely right. It might be that they need to go. But if you want to get in touch with us and we can show you how we would price that, I'm more than happy to get someone to give you a quick demo of that. Not a problem.
I alluded to a comment I've had recently from a client who rang the Institute, and they said, I keep telling my bookkeeper, won't mention her, that she needs to get more qualified because then she can charge me more. And I said, for doing what? He said, well, for doing what she does. And I said, but if she's doing the job, why does she need a different title? He said, well, I always thought accountants charge more. I said, yeah, they do. But okay, she can charge you that much as a bookkeeper. So what you're saying is that you think she deserves more. He said, well, I suppose so. Well, he said, no, well, and he ummed and ahed, and you could see that actually there was room for improvement what he was paying. But he had this thing in his head that if he was paying an accountant to do it, he'd just have to pay more. And I think this is something we as bookkeepers have really got to get across, that actually we're not just number crunchers at the bottom end of the feed chain. We are much further up than that. And for a small business, we're the only accounting person you'll ever need. We can do your year-end accounts, we can do everything for you, providing you've not got overcomplicated tax regimes and you're trying to hide stuff in the Philippines or something or other, then we're great. You know, that's what we're about. So I think as a group, we have that to get through.
100%. And you said a little word there that I've pulled some bookkeepers up on recently, which is the word just. So a bookkeeper messaged me, so I'm just a bookkeeper. I said, hang on a minute, what's this word just? So the client's thinking that, but what I would suggest is that very often bookkeepers, if they don't outwardly say that word just, they project that in the way that they present themselves and the way that they think, because it starts with them. It starts with them realizing the value that they do, that they're able to provide. And I spoke to a bookkeeper about a month ago. She's got a brilliant bookkeeping practice. And she's very different, right? Her view is, I don't understand what accountants do. I don't understand the value they bring. We bring the value. We do it all. Like, we're able to generate we gather the data that allows us to be able to generate the management reports for the clients. She said, I don't understand what value accountants can bring. So she had fully accepted the importance of the bookkeeper. She'd accepted it in her mind first. And that's where we have to start. If you want to sell, the most important sell that you can make is to yourself. You have to be fully sold on the value that you can bring, because only once you do that, you can start to then sell the client on that value. And you're absolutely right with qualifications. To my mind, qualifications doesn't mean anything. Like, if you can bring the value to the party, that is it. It's the only thing I'm going to judge you on. So if I'm a client, the only thing I'm going to judge you on is what impact can you have on my business? What impact can you have on my life, on my finances? And I have never asked anyone for a qualification. I've got a master's degree. No one has ever asked me for my qualification. It's just, can I do what I do? And that's it.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. The thing is, the qualifications, as far as bookkeeping is concerned, is it makes you understand that you're doing something correctly, because it's not the sort of profession you want to get into if you really don't know what you're doing.
Sure.
I think the average person that you're likely to meet and try and sell them your services to would not know what a good bookkeeping qualification was. You know, hopefully they like the name ICB, they can see there's a reputation there, and that's what it's about. But they don't know whether you've taken 5 certificates, 25 certificates, or what. If you tell them you can do something, they will actually, if they like you, they will believe you. And that's what it's about. So it is all this confidence thing. You mentioned price a minute ago. So what is this, how many arms and legs have we got to part with to take on GoProposal?
Cool. So there's 3 parts to GoProposal. So the first part is the software, and the second part is our community, and the third part is our academy. So I'm a big believer that you've got to have the right people around you on this journey. So you guys are part of the ICB. You've got the right people around you there. We have our own community as well. So we help you and support you through those challenges with your peers. We also have our academy, where we have an 8-step training program where we help you to have the confidence. How do you go back to your clients? How do you have that conversation with them, because you've been undercharging them for so long? And how do you now start to charge them what it is that you're worth? And how do we affect your mindset around that? So that's the other part. But the main part of our product is our software. You get a 30-day free trial with it. When you sign up with it, one of the big challenges that people have is, well, what should we charge in the first place? So we've got a wizard that we've developed, and we just ask you 3 questions. And in fact, yeah, 3 questions, sorry, very simple questions in terms of what you charge for these 3 services. And based on that, the system will then pre-populate your app with all of the pricing within there as a starting point for you. It's better than having nothing. It's a really solid starting point. And once you've done that, then what we advocate that you do is take that existing client. So what Faye was saying before, take that client that you've got that you're trying to charge VAT for and they're not wanting to pay it, put those through the system and see what GoProposal says the pricing should be and use that as a starting point. So what we will do throughout the 30-day free trial is work with you very closely to help you to get your pricing right, your proposal looking great, so you can actually go out the door and produce your first proposal and ideally have it accepted before you even part with any arms or legs, Gary. So what we want to do is really demonstrate the value to you. And we've had this where people have gone and produced proposals for significantly more they were currently charging, so that GoProposal has paid for itself for life. So a standard GoProposal application is £120 a month, and that's unlimited everything with 2 users. You have unlimited clients, produce unlimited proposals. Now, if you're much smaller than that, and we have a solo package, which is £60 a month. And for £60 a month, the only limit we put on there is that you can only produce up to 5 proposals or renewals a month. So if that fits in with you, and we have a lot of bookkeepers that are in that package because they're slightly smaller. So for that, they get GoProposal, they get all of our support, they get the community. Our community is said to be one of the most active and engaged communities online. If anyone's chatting on here and anyone's part of that, I'm sure they will testify to that. And then they get the academy for free as well, and all the training that comes with that, which is all CPD accredited. So you get the accreditation for going through that training as well. You can cancel whenever you want as well, Gary. There's no contract. And I hate when you sign up for something and you can't get out of it easily. So I've got a massive button in there that says cancel. So you can sign up for a free trial, see what the pricing is, go and export that from the system if you want. And if it's not right, you hit the cancel button and you'll be ejected. No one will try and convince you to stay. Your payment stopped instantly. So that's my bugbear if something's not right for you.
Okay, so you don't have to have sort of 10 licenses in your bronze, 20 licenses in your silver, 150 licenses in your gold. That sort of thing doesn't happen.
No. Like say, just standard £120, you get the lot. And if you want just to limit it on the number of proposals, but the name doesn't allure to it. But in actual fact, in our firm, for example, we would only take on 2 new clients a month. So we may produce 4 proposals to get those 2 clients. So we're actually only producing a very limited number of proposals every month, but we're carrying out a significant number of renewals every month because we're using it with existing clients. That's my big thing, Gary. Like, very often people will think that the gold is out there, that we need to go and find better clients. What I try and encourage people is that they're already sat on the gold. You know, what we need to do is fix the leaks in the bucket to start with. The existing clients that you've got, who you already know, they already trust you, they already like you. It's about going back to those guys, having a better conversation, solving a bigger problem, charging the fee that you should be charging. And that is where we can significantly increase our revenue.
We've had an anonymous question. Would you suggest, silly question asking you, I suppose, but would you suggest this for a new practice?
Do you know what? If people want to try GoProposal, I'm always like, yeah, try it if you want. It's up to you. Like, I'm really chilled with it. The only time I dig my heels in and really try and get someone to sign up is when they tell me they're a new practice. And the reason for that is because I don't want them to get it wrong. The hardest thing that firms have to do is, you know, when they come to me and they're like, I've got 500 clients and I've been charging them. This is the worst case scenario. I've got 500 clients and I've not repriced them for 8 years. That was a true scenario. I mean, it's like, we've got some work to do here. So I would much rather work with a firm to start with. And all I've got to do, Gary, for that £60 a month, if I can get you charging 3 clients, £20 a month more than you would have paid without GoProposal, GoProposal is now free for life. So we really work very hard with new clients. And we've got someone in the community, actually, if you go and search for this, what's he called? He's in the GoProposal community. I think he's called Andrew Evans. If anyone wants to go and verify this, he signed up. He was a new business just over a year ago. And I remember I was in America and I rang him from America to convince him to sign up. And he did. And then 2 weeks ago, bearing in mind it's a 12 months old firm, he signed his first £1,200 a month client. He's got to the point where he's got that confidence to go and present those fees. And he came and told the story about how we convinced him over the line. So new practices, 100%. Even if, Garry, and just keep this between me and you, even if they just sign up, steal all the pricing out of our system, because you can go in, generate the pricing, export it. If it's not right for you, take the pricing and run. At the very least, you'll have got some benefit from GoProposal.
Okay, well, we won't tell anybody about that just in case.
No, between me and you. Between me and you.
Kevin Jarvis has just asked for clarification. It's £60
Plus
a month
VAT.
plus VAT and 120
Yes.
plus VAT.
Yes.
I don't know if he didn't hear it or whether he just picked himself up off the floor or what he's talking about there, but he seems to be quite happy. So that's good. I mean, last year, our members, and everybody who listens to this regularly will have heard this so many times before, but picked up just over 10,900 new clients between them. And so far this year, I haven't had the figure in the last month, but we were already on nearly 4,000 new clients this year. So I think we're picking up a lot of people who have suddenly realized the benefit of getting help because of COVID. So that is,
yes.
you know, getting everything signed up or whatever. So that's been good. Some interesting figures, actually, just if I might take a minute just to tell our members of this. According to the Office for National Statistics in 2019, 64% of startups were people of 45 or above, and 20% 36 to 44, and only 9% under 35. Of those people, the highest common qualification that anybody had was an A level, 29%, and 21% have a degree. A big chunk of people just have no qualification at all. So it depends, obviously, what type of business they've got. And the biggest factor to success is claimed to be attitude. 381,000 new businesses were started. Unfortunately, 362,000 failed. So we're still positive, but that's 362,000 businesses didn't quite make it. And the biggest biggest category in startups was 17%, and that was transport, freight, and storage. Interestingly, 16% of fails, so 1% less, was also in transport, freight, and storage. So, you know, it's a short-lived thing. London has most new businesses, 16% of all businesses, and they're mainly retail, online, mail order houses. Northwest follows next with 14%, which I think is interesting. Highest fail rate, 13.5%, was also in the Northwest, so only 0.5% positive on that one. The Southwest has the highest survival rate, and bearing in mind this is the highest survival rate, only 44% are still going after 5 years, which means 56% aren't. And 14% of 65-year-olds actually still run their own business. So there's hope for some people out there, including me. But anyway, never mind. So that's good. So I think it gives you an idea. You know, we've had these figures bandied about for so often. The big businesses actually are in a minority, and they're not what we're interested in at all. We're interested in micro businesses and small businesses. Very few of our members even get as far as a medium-sized business. So, you know, you can have a turnover of up to 13, 14 million and still be classed as a small business. Our sweet spot, I think, is micro up to 4 or 5 million as a small business. That seems to be what the majority of our clients are. And there's, you know, we've got nearly 120,000 of those. So that between us, that's really great that we've got that. But that's our area, and it's an area that bookkeepers, they're not just bookkeepers, and they're not only providing bookkeeping. You know, they are very valued professionals, and I think that's great. So if we can get them to, I'm just trying to see if we've got any more questions. If we can get them to value themselves, and it could be that using something like this is going to give them that. The most difficult bit about selling is always the price, and if this can help them with that, and you know, you don't want people saying, "Okay, that's fantastic, leave it with me, I'll get back to you."
Yeah.
You walk out through that door, and the next thing comes up to their mind, and then they completely forget about you, and then they've lost you sitting there talking to them and getting the value across to them. So it's a difficult one. It's hard work, but excuse me a second there. Hale's the boat saying yes. Helen, right. How does the GoProposal package work once a price has been accepted? Does it include issuing and planning the engagement letter package to send out?
Yeah, so it generates the engagement letter as well, guys. So if you've got an ICB engagement letter, you can upload that into the system. We are just launching our own engagement letters as well, but you can put the engagement letter in the system. So the proposal's accepted, the engagement letter's accepted. It will then generate your invoicing in Xero or QuickBooks. And if you use certain practice management software, it can trigger off the work in the practice management software as well.
Okay. Couple of things. First of all, when I Googled you to start with, the first thing I got was another organization that offers a similar service. And the first thing, they've been very clever by using your name in "We Can Do Better Than GoProposal" or GoProposal and the things that are wrong with it, etc. So I think you were fourth.
Did they? Have they got that? Have they still got that? It's funny that they published that. Send me a link to that, because I saw that article a year ago, and I shared it for them. I said, let me share this for you, because we must be doing something right if we're that much on your radar.
Yeah, I always think that as well. And the other thing is, I quickly had a look on my mobile phone, and I looked at your website, and it talks about hit here and see, get your blurb basically saying how wonderful we are and all the rest of it. And certainly on my phone, and I tried it on my wife's phone, but we've both got iPhones, you can't see you just get the top of your head, and a panel comes up saying you're convinced, hit here and get a personal proposal. So I had to listen to it, but I couldn't see you. I could see you moving about.
Look at that on the video.
Yeah,
I'll send me a link to that. That might be something I've broken recently. That we've just relaunched. We just launched a new website. So yeah, send me a link to that. I'll have a look at that. Yeah, you're probably better off having me. You're probably better off having me cropped off anyway, Gary. If you can hear me, that's enough. You don't need to be looking at me. Maybe it's
I was just really annoyed. I said, yeah, all right. I think that, so I went back and thought I've done something wrong here, and then I tried it 3 times, and in the end I thought, oh, well, all right, I'll listen.
No, I'm sure I've done something wrong.
To listen, so I don't know how many more people are getting out there. So, what is the other than obviously getting us all to sign up with GoProposal? I mean, can you, from your experience, what's the next big thing going to be for bookkeepers, do you think?
One thing I've been talking about, Gary, is that, we're in the middle of a storm now. And I think what a lot of bookkeepers and accountants have been guilty of, and the clients have been guilty of as well, their clients, is the clients have procured what I would call fair weather services. And accountants and bookkeepers have been guilty of selling fair weather services, where now we're in the middle of a storm and some of those services aren't fit for what they actually really need. And what we've done is we've allowed people to say, oh no, I don't need management accounts. I don't need monthly management accounts. I don't need quarterly management accounts. I can do this myself. Well, now people have experienced a storm very recently, and we need to have the confidence to say, no, you do need this, because I'm going to storm proof you. And it's not just about accepting what they think they want, but we need to be much more confident in telling them what they really need to be able to survive situations like this. I don't think we need to look for anything new, Gary. I think the services that bookkeepers provide, like you say, are hugely, hugely valuable. We don't need to look to new services. We don't need to look to getting new clients on board. We just need to look at what we've got. How can you value what you do more? How can you better communicate that value to your clients? And how can you make sure that you're charging for it? That's it. I don't think we need new.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. I mean, I think one of the things that COVID has done for a lot of us, and ICB included, is it's made us concentrate on our existing audience. We're doing ICB TV. I mean, this is something that we've never done before. We'd done it within 24 hours of lockdown and thought, this is a great idea. Let's make sure everybody's okay. But once they got past, yeah, we're okay, we realized that actually people are tuning in. People still want this. And even now, what is it, 12, 13 weeks later now, the audience goes up and down a little more because other people are busy, but it's still something that's necessary. And we are finding that by communicating with our existing people, we're getting a lot more feedback, which is good. We're bringing in new products, etc. And I think, yeah, you're right. We should be talking to people. And I mean, accountants are not best known for talking to their clients. accounting age did something a while back, which was asking people what they thought was going to be the next big thing for accountants. What have they got to do to retain their business? And top of the list was talk to their clients. So for a group of professionals to be told that's the way to retain clients is to talk to them is a bit of a frightening thing. And I always think that bookkeepers do talk to people, but talk in different ways. And I mentioned before, Claire, one of our members, who actually got her clients together on a Zoom and then got them all to talk to each other. And then she brought bits in, and she actually, brought a couple of speakers in from outside to help them through things. It's innovative thought, and I think that's brilliant. And
accountants are scared to death of, like, although we've got a firm, I never stand here and say we're perfect, because we're not. We've got challenges like everyone else. And one thing that really frustrates me is someone will say, "Oh, I've got this problem with a client." I'm like, "What's the issue?" And then they'll send me an email thread that's like this long. And I'm like, why didn't you pick the phone up there? After that first email, why didn't you just ring them up and say, "What's up? Let's sort this out." You don't need that. So one thing that really does my head in is the idea of, we've implemented it as a core value. I know we can do better with it. Phone first, email second. Like that 2-minute phone call can solve so much, and bookkeepers are brilliant at it. And as technology improves and lots of things get automated, what will never be automated is the ability to pick up a phone and have a human conversation with somebody. And if you can hone that skill and make that yours, you will always be hugely valuable.
Yeah, and I think we just have to think about what it is we're trying to communicate. And something I mentioned to our members before, we actually sent out a survey once, which the government asked us to do. And we sent the survey out, and it was, I think, 4 questions. You had to tick four answers, yes or no. And I got a long email from somebody saying she hadn't got time to answer questionnaires. Well, the email was 700, I've forgotten the exact number, 740 words long. I mean, she could have answered 20 surveys in that time, but she obviously take umbrage and decided she was going to do that. So yeah, we've got to plan our day properly. Well, James, it's been great to talk to you today. I'm pleased I can see all of you now. I can, and everybody else can, not over your head, which is great.
Yes.
And obviously, I think it gives us a lot to think about. I hope we're going to be doing some work with GoProposal over the coming 12 months. I know everybody here is very keen to do some stuff. It is a new area for a lot of our members, and if they hear the introduction, they might think, "Oh, hold on a minute, no, this is too salesy for me." But if you sit down and think about it, it's not. It's about realism. It's about being fair, and it's about getting fairness back in return. So yeah, I mean, not everybody's going to sign up overnight just because you've been on here, but I think some will now be ready to think about it, and that's what we try to do. But also, sales aside, we're trying to open up people's views to different ways of doing what they do so that they don't get oversettled, as I think you've said, and certainly I've said. One of the problems with lots of small businesses is they get comfortable. Yes. And then they take their eye off the ball. And, it's the same whether you're running an institute or you're running a bookkeeping business or you're running Virgin Atlantic. It doesn't matter. You've got to keep reassessing everything you do. So thank you very much for helping us assess what you do. And we'll wait to see how successful you are at attracting our members.
That's great. So, thanks, Garry.
Wednesday, everybody, is the next one of these, and we are going to have the advisory council coming on. We have an advisory council meeting in the morning, which is where they sort of batter us and tell us what it is they want from us and what it is we're doing right or wrong. And then a number of them, I'm not sure how many yet, but a lot of them will be coming on, and you'll get a chance to put questions to council, but also to hear what they've been discussing this week. And this is their quarterly meeting. So thank you very much indeed. So goodbye, everybody. Hope to see as many of you as we can on Wednesday. Thank you. Thanks, James.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers. See ya.